December 21st, 1945. A telephone rang inside Dwight Eisenhower's Washington office. The message was blunt. George Patton was dead. For 3 years, Eisenhower had balanced on a wire, publicly correcting his most lethal field commander while quietly relying on him to win fights no one else could finish. He shielded Patton from politicians, made excuses to allies, and pulled him back whenever his fury risked diplomatic catastrophe. Now Patton was gone. And for the first time since war began, Eisenhower no longer had to weigh every sentence. What he said in the weeks and months after exposed a reality he had hidden beneath layers of political necessity. Patton was not merely effective, he was irreplaceable. And losing him felt like losing the war's sharpest weapon. If you want to hear what Eisenhower truly believed once diplomacy no longer mattered, subscribe right now. Before there was a supreme commander and a controversial subordinate, there were two young officers who understood each other completely. Camp Meade, 1919. Eisenhower and Patton were captains in the brand new tank corps. They spent long hours dismantling engines, arguing over doctrine, and imagining how machines would redefine warfare. Patton was the wealthy aristocrat, generational money, unshakable confidence, already a combat veteran from Mexico and France. Eisenhower was the Kansas farm boy who missed combat in World War I and was still searching for validation. Yet they bonded over a shared belief. Tanks were not support tools, they were the future. Fast, mobile, overwhelming when used properly. The Army rejected the idea, shut down their proposals, and warned them their careers were at risk. Patton, protected by wealth, could afford defiance. Eisenhower, dependent on his salary, learned caution. 23 years later, those two captains became the supreme Allied commander in Europe and the most feared general in the American Army. The friendship endured. Everything else changed. Eisenhower now had to manage Patton, channel his aggression, explain his controversies to Roosevelt, to Churchill, to Marshall, decide when to unleash him and when to restrain him. Patton hated restraint. He believed Eisenhower had grown political, overly careful, obsessed with diplomacy and coalitions. Patton wanted battle, not negotiation. The tension simmered throughout the war. Two former equals locked in a hierarchy where one shaped vision and the other could execute it, or stop it entirely. August 1943, Sicily. Patton commanded the 7th Army during the invasion of Italy. While visiting field hospitals, he encountered soldiers suffering from what we now call PTSD, then known as combat fatigue or shell shock. Patton saw weakness, not injury. In two separate incidents, he struck soldiers, insulted them, and threatened execution. The story spread. Reporters heard. Politicians demanded explanations. Public outrage exploded. Eisenhower faced an impossible decision: remove Patton and lose his best battlefield commander, or keep him and ignite a political inferno. He chose a narrow middle ground, a formal reprimand, mandatory apologies to soldiers, medical staff, and the entire army. Public enough to calm critics, but not enough to end Patton's career. Why? Because Eisenhower was already planning Operation Overlord, the invasion of France, and he knew Patton was required, not desired, required. In Sicily, Patton confirmed Eisenhower's suspicions. He moved faster, struck harder, crushed morale more effectively than any American commander. While Montgomery advanced methodically, Patton's 7th Army raced ahead. German forces learned to fear his speed and unpredictability, so Eisenhower preserved Patton, at a price. He defended the choice to Marshall, to Roosevelt, to the War Department, promised control, promised it would never happen again, promised military gains outweighed political damage. And here was the truth Eisenhower could never admit publicly. He wasn't convinced Patton was entirely wrong. Privately, he voiced frustration with soldiers collapsing under pressure. He rejected Patton's actions, but understood the mindset. War demands endurance. Patton's approach was unacceptable, yet his belief in discipline and mental toughness wasn't completely misguided. Eisenhower simply could not say that, so he punished Patton publicly and shielded him privately. Spring 1944, D-Day approached. Eisenhower faced another dilemma: convincing Germany the invasion would strike Calais, not Normandy. The answer was Operation Fortitude, a massive deception. Fake armies, fake radio signals, fake installations, and at its center, George Patton. German intelligence believed Patton was the Allies' most dangerous commander. They studied North Africa. They studied Sicily. They obsessed over his location. Eisenhower exploited that obsession. Patton was placed in command of the fictional First Army Group, supposedly preparing to invade Calais. He gave speeches, inspected fake units, visited staged bases. Reconnaissance planes photographed inflatable tanks and wooden landing craft. Germany believed it. Major forces remained at Calais weeks after D-Day, convinced Patton's real assault was still coming. The plan worked perfectly. It drove Patton mad. He wanted Normandy. He wanted combat, not theater. Being bait humiliated him while others earned glory. Eisenhower couldn't reveal the truth, that Patton was more valuable as deception than as a battlefield commander during those critical weeks, that his reputation was saving Allied lives. Patton learned the full truth only after the war. He never forgave it. Eisenhower understood exactly what he was doing. He weaponized Patton's reputation to win battles before they began. August 1st, 1944. Patton's Third Army finally went operational in France. What followed was extraordinary. In 1 month, the Third Army advanced farther than any comparable force in history. Hundreds of towns liberated, tens of thousands of Germans captured or destroyed. German commanders couldn't establish lines before Patton smashed through them. Eisenhower watched with pride and fear. Pride because Patton proved everything imagined back in 1919. Fear because speed outran supply lines and strained coordination. Other commanders lagged. Bradley was deliberate. Montgomery slower still, refusing action until perfection was guaranteed. Patton simply advanced. He called Eisenhower, demanding fuel, ammunition, momentum. "Give me supplies and I'll be in Berlin in 2 weeks." Eisenhower explained reality. Resources were shared. Politics mattered. Occupation zones were agreed upon. Patton dismissed it all. He saw collapse and wanted finality. Every delay felt criminal. Privately, Eisenhower sometimes agreed. He admitted to Bedell Smith that caution might be excessive, that politics distorted logic. But Supreme Command required balance, Allied unity. American, British, Soviet interests, the post-war world. So he restrained Patton, diverted supplies to Montgomery for Market Garden, which failed disastrously, ordered consolidation, forced coordination. Patton exploded with anger, believed Eisenhower squandered victory. Their relationship turned openly hostile. December 16, 1944, the Ardennes. Germany launched a surprise offensive, the Battle of the Bulge. American forces were stunned, units surrounded, lines shattered. For the first time since D-Day, defeat seemed possible. Eisenhower summoned commanders to Verdun. The atmosphere was grim. Bradley looked shaken. Montgomery urged caution. Others spoke of defense. Eisenhower turned to Patton. "George, how long to attack?" Everyone understood the scale. Patton's army faced south, 90 degrees away. To respond meant disengaging, pivoting 3 divisions, tens of thousands of men, hundreds of tanks, through winter into enemy flanks. Most commanders needed weeks. Patton opened a notebook. He'd already planned it on the train to Verdun. December 22nd, 3 divisions, 72 hours. Doubt filled the room. Eisenhower believed him. Make it so. Patton delivered. On December 22nd, exactly as promised, the Third Army struck. The German offensive collapsed. Disaster became victory. Every compromise Eisenhower endured was justified in that moment. When everything failed, Patton succeeded. Publicly, Eisenhower's praise remained measured. Favoritism was impossible. Alliance demanded balance. Privately, Eisenhower knew the truth. In planning sessions, he often asked, "What would Patton do?" Not because Patton was flawless, but because he saw differently. Obstacles became opportunities. Risk became speed. Eisenhower's diaries reveal frustration, needing Patton's aggression, yet restraining it, relying on him while apologizing for him. When the war ended, Patton became a liability. His remarks ignited scandal. His calls to fight the Soviets were toxic. Eisenhower removed him from command, one of his hardest choices. Their final conversations were bitter. Patton felt betrayed. Eisenhower felt trapped. Then the accident. 12 days later, Patton was gone. Afterward, Eisenhower's restraint vanished. In private letters and conversations, he spoke honestly. Patton achieved results through speed, pressure, and force of will, traits that could not be taught. Others led through structure. Patton led through dominance. Eisenhower admitted restraint had been political, not military, that holding Patton back haunted him, that freedom might have ended war sooner. Patton thrived in chaos. Where others froze, he acted. Managing Patton was Eisenhower's greatest burden and greatest responsibility. Unchecked, Patton caused disaster. Directed properly, he was unstoppable. In his memoirs, Eisenhower called Patton indispensable, irreplaceable. The outcome would have changed without him. Patton was made for war and impossible for peace. Eisenhower became president in 1953. 8 years in office, no more wars. But Patton never left his mind. Late in life, he spoke of Camp Meade, the Bulge, the impossible decisions. His admission wasn't just about Patton. It was about command, loneliness, the cost of restraint. America lost more than a general on December 21, 1945. It lost a force of will. Eisenhower always knew it. Only after Patton died could he finally say it. Do you believe Eisenhower should have given Patton more freedom? Or was restraint necessary? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe for more untold histories. See you next time.